Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you today to the Implementation and Assessment Group meeting of the Global Initiative to Combat Nuclear Terrorism. I request Dr. S. Jaishankar, Foreign Secretary, India, to kindly address the gathering.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 2017 edition of the Implementation and Assessment Group meeting of the Global Initiative to Combat Nuclear Terrorism. At the Nuclear Security Summit held in March 2016, Prime Minister Modi had announced that India would host this event. It is the first occasion that a GICNT meeting is being held in South Asia, and my country is very proud to be associated with this initiative. The power of the atom is wondrous. It has benefited mankind in myriad ways. The scientific community has played a vital role in harnessing nuclear energy and radiological sources for societal needs. The ancient Indian philosopher and sage, Kannada, propounded the concept of the atom in the 6th century BC. Today, 2.5 millennia later, as a country possessing advanced nuclear technologies, India is at the forefront in promoting the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. We have actively associated with and contributed to the IAEA and other multilateral forums dealing with all aspects of nuclear material. As mankind confronts the challenges of climate change and inclusive growth, nuclear energy will continue to play an important role in our lives. India and many other nations have built their developmental strategy on that premise. In fact, it is our expectation of predictable and affordable access to civilian nuclear energy that is the basis for our commitments under the Paris Agreement for 40% non-fossil power generation capacity. On the other hand, the negative consequences of atomic power also cannot be ignored. The world has witnessed the immense destructive power of the atom. We hope that such horrors will never be repeated and cannot overstate the importance of countries with nuclear weapons to be responsible. Events that have unfolded around us, more so in the last couple of decades, have highlighted that terrorism remains the most pervasive and serious challenge to international security. If access to nuclear technology changes state behavior, it is only to be expected that it would also impact on non-state calculations. Nuclear security, therefore, will be a continuing concern, especially as terrorist groups and non-state actors strike deeper roots and explore different avenues to spread terror. Developing a comprehensive global response is the highest priority. There are two aspects to this challenge, which was highlighted as early as 1974 by Mason Bildrick and Theodore Taylor. The first is to clamp down on terrorism in general, and the second, to restrict unauthorized access to nuclear technology and material. Given its impressive membership of 86 partner countries and 5 international organizations, the GICNT is expected to play an important role in providing an effective international platform for consolidating and disseminating the technical expertise and best practices to respond to malicious acts by terrorists. Responsible states provide political commitments to assure each other that they will protect nuclear material under their control from falling into wrong hands. Every year, at the First Committee of the UN General Assembly, India co-sponsors a resolution on measures to prevent terrorists from acquiring weapons of mass destruction that has been adopted by consensus since 2002. However, political commitments alone cannot ensure the safety and security of nuclear material. Treaty instruments, such as the International Convention for the Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism, ICSANT, and the Convention on Physical Protection of Nuclear Materials, CPPNM, and its amendment provide a firm basis for translating broader political commitments into legally binding measures. As a state party to these instruments, India has demonstrated its faith and believes that their universalization is a global good. Effective implementation of the obligations under the UN Security Council Resolutions 1540 and 1373 is another important pillar in the fight against terrorism and proliferation of WMD. There are, I believe, 13 instruments that are widely accepted as benchmarks for a state's commitment to combat terrorism. What is more important is that adhering parties display the required sincerity to implement their commitment. The dangers of discriminating among terrorists, good or bad, and even yours and mine, are increasingly recognized. Terrorism is an international threat that should not serve national strategy. Nuclear terrorism, even more so. A comprehensive convention on international terrorism was proposed by India in 1996. We hope that this critical convention would be adopted soon. The existence of a number of conventions and treaties dealing with nuclear terrorism underscores the fact that there is no one instrument that can deal with this issue in a holistic manner. The march of globalization means that combating nuclear terrorism in isolation or as part of a small group is unlikely to yield the desired results. This is where the GICNT plays an important role as it works towards building worldwide communities of experts and practitioners in order to have a consistent and coherent approach towards the issue of nuclear terrorism. The Implementation and Assessment Group and the other working groups of the GICNT, namely Nuclear Detection Working Group, Response and Mitigation Working Group, the Nuclear and Forensics Working Group, have established themselves as the drivers for taking forward the important work of the global initiative. The membership of these groups represent the entire spectrum of relevant stakeholders: the scientific community, law enforcement agencies, first responders to nuclear security events, prosecutors, and the judicial fraternity, and of course key decision makers from the diplomatic community. Their collaboration has enriched the body of work of the GICNT. The emphasis on case studies, mock trials, scenario-based exercises, and other tools has contributed to an interactive learning. More importantly, it has built a network of experts and practitioners who are available to help each other at short notice. Indian experts have contributed positively and substantively to the drafting of various documents and playbooks of the GICNT. India remains committed to further the objectives of the global initiative. We have been contributing to the Nuclear Security Fund of the IAEA, India's Global Center for Nuclear Energy Partnership, GCNEP, is available to interested states for training courses and capacity building programs in the field of nuclear and radiological security. I'm confident that your deliberations over these 3 days will help prioritize future action plans of the working groups of the GICNT and prepare for the upcoming annual plenary in Japan. I also hope that you have time to explore this historic city and experience its rich culture. In concluding, I would like to thank the co-chairs, the Russian Federation and the United States, the IAG coordinator, the Netherlands, and the GICNT Secretariat, whose help in preparing for this event has been unstinted. I wish the meeting all success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Mr. Mikhail Kondratenkov, Russian co-chair and Chief Counselor, Ministry Foreign Affairs, Russian Federation, to kindly address the gathering.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, On behalf of the Russian co-chair of the GICNT, I would like to welcome you at the IAG meeting in Delhi. This meeting we have in the country with very developed nuclear power, with big plans for further development. We highly appreciate the Indian achievements in this sphere. We highly estimate Indians' contribution into GICNT and to combating nuclear terrorism in the world. And of course, we highly estimate the initiatives of the Indian government in this sphere. I would like to thank all the Indian team, the Indian Ministry for Foreign Affairs, especially Dr. Jaishankar, for his efforts for organizing this meeting. I am happy to welcome all of you here on this meeting, and my special thanks to IAG coordinator, Ms. Jannike Friedland, who is replacing Mr. Niederloff, as well to working group chairs, Ms. Itimat Sophie, Mr. Kari Pirayarvi. My special welcome to David Hill. Thank you for returning to the initiative. We would like to welcome all the experts, all of those who made a long trip to come here, and I hope that our work would be successful. Now we have quite new subjects for GICNT, like security of radioactive sources, like legal basis for the initiative, legal frameworks. And I hope that we would have very fruitful discussion, and I wish success to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kondratenkov. I now request Ms. Christine Martin, U.S. Co-Chair and Coordinator GICNT, U.S. Department of State, to kindly address the gathering.
Good morning. On behalf of the U.S. Co-Chair, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Republic of India for hosting the GICNT's 2017 Mid-Year Implementation and Assessment Group meeting. I thank His Excellency, Foreign Secretary Jaishankar, for his welcoming remarks, which underscored the importance of this meeting and India's long-standing commitment to nuclear security. The contributions of our Indian hosts in planning and organizing this meeting have been invaluable, and I also want to recognize their support in making available to us this week so many of their nuclear security experts to contribute to and advance the discussions. I also want to thank the working group chairs, the IAG coordinator and the IAG coordinator special advisor, and our Russian co-chair for their continued collaboration and guidance in realizing the work plans of this initiative. Finally, I welcome and thank you all for traveling to India to contribute your expertise to this meeting, which provides an important opportunity to reflect upon the progress that has been made since the 2015 GICNT plenary meeting in Helsinki and the 10th anniversary meeting in The Hague last year. The 2015 plenary meeting reaffirmed the GICNT's strategic direction in continuing to support the development and implementation of practical activities that promote capacity building across the focus areas of nuclear detection, forensics, and response and mitigation. It also called for GICNT partners to promote regional cooperation, to ensure strategic continuity between GICNT events, and focus on promoting fundamental concepts of nuclear security exercise design, implementation, and evaluation. The 10th anniversary meeting underscored the partners' nations' continued interest in maintaining work in these priority areas, but also suggested increasing GICNT efforts to strengthen national capabilities through addressing challenges to bilateral, regional, and international information exchange and cooperation, and identifying best practices to ensure the long-term sustainability of our nuclear security programs. We particularly note the challenge of these areas of work in the nexus of counterterrorism and law enforcement that is the GICNT's mission space. Senior leaders in The Hague also recommended GICNT consider developing specific activities in the areas of legal frameworks for nuclear security and radioactive source security, and they promoted further GICNT outreach to the law enforcement communities, such as police, investigators, and customs and border officials. I am pleased that this week's discussions will enable GICNT policy and technical experts to further review and discuss these recommendations with the aim of identifying both enduring and new priorities that will be introduced at our 2017 plenary meeting in Tokyo. At the same time, I note continued commitment to sustaining the efforts of the 3 technical working groups, and we welcome the dialogue between this large group of technical experts on many critical policy challenges in their respective areas of work. Most importantly, I want to remind all the participants here this week that the GICNT's success continues to be dependent on the voluntary contributions of you, the partner nations. As we discuss and plan future activities this week, I hope that you, as representatives of your governments, will follow the example set by India and consider making a national commitment at the 2017 plenary meeting to host and lead planning of GICNT activities in the areas that are most meaningful to you. I hope you will find inspiration for such commitments in the discussions here this week. Thank you again to our Indian hosts for their tremendous leadership and expertise, and thank you all for your continued support and your contributions to the global initiative to combat nuclear terrorism. I wish you all a very productive week.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. I also take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Janika Vreeland, Implementation and Assessment Group Coordinator and Deputy Head of the Non-Proliferation, Disarmament and Nuclear Affairs Division in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands. I now request our distinguished delegates to kindly come to the stage for the group photograph.
We have to move there.